Welcome to the Tech Informative Introductions episode. I'm Stephen Wagner.
Rob Dalton.
And this is our first recording attempting to do a video podcast.
We are doing it.
Yeah. So Rob, why did we, should we go over why we created this?
Yeah, let's do it. So, I reached out to you, right? I reached out to you and thought we've done some work together and done some cool things, right? Tech wise. And I think it's great that we have this going on, and I have no idea what I'm talking about.
No.
I'm just rambling on.
Yeah, no worries, because you came in through the blog and you were looking for some stuff regarding virtualization. And how long have we been talking for now? About a year and a half?
Has it? Yeah, probably a year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we built quite a rapport.
Yeah. No, it's been fun. We've had a good time. Yeah. And I think that's what part of this is, that there's so many other individuals out there that are doing the same thing, that, the few connections I've established, they're great connections, and they're genuine people, just positive fellow humans that are doing the same thing. And so there's a lot going on with that. And so, and I think that's what I originally started having the interest in, is because more of that genuine connection with those others that are doing the same, that had the same interests as we do. You and I would get on the phone, we would talk, and it would just flow. And so there's got to be other people, right, that would also enjoy that same conversation or join in on that conversation.
No. And that was always a big problem that I had, is because being an actual IT provider, I always had clients that always thought I was trying to upsell them, or the other IT people that I get the opportunity to meet, their competitors. So it's kind of hard to network when you're in my situation. So anytime.
Sure. Stephen, we don't want you in here.
Yeah.
So right? You're going to take our gig, Stephen.
Yeah. So it's always good when I get to, become friends with someone else in the industry and talk. And it's fun to work on the projects too. So.
Right.
And I guess that's kind of how it evolved and got to the point where we decided to do this podcast to just cover information technology as a whole, whether it's from the corporate point of view, provider point of view, consumer technologies, because everything's so interconnected now. That
there's right.
Yeah. So.
And we cover, throughout our day to day, we cover so many different spectrums of technology. We're not going in and working on Active Directory day in and day out. We do, but not day in, day out. So that's what makes it fun, I think.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because now everything's connected. Before there was consumer IT, a big threat to corporate IT was always shadow IT. And now there's essentially no line because of like with COVID-19, the bring your own device.
True.
It's so now technically there is no consumer IT. There is, but everything's just so connected now that we have to be knowledgeable in everything.
Right. Look at your mobile device, your phone, your Galaxy or your iPhone. Before it was just a phone for myself. Now it's so intertwined with work.
Yeah. And the technology world's ever expanding. And so I think, I guess you could say that's why we decided to create this podcast, is just to kind of do a deep dive, have conversations about it, explore it.
I'm really excited with some of the subjects we're going to get into. It'll be fun.
Yeah. So I'm excited because, like I've told you many times before in our private conversations, like I'm a big fan of stuff like VDI and virtualization, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting to actually be able to have a discussion on topics like that. Get into it and talk about it, and hopefully some people out there that are watching this find that kind of stuff relevant. So,
and that's the way our conversation would go, right? It'd be like we start discussing the storage arrays and then the frame types, and we just go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So we gotta have to bring that into this video, into this channel.
Yeah. And that's what's going to be nice about this too, is the fact that like when we've been working together in the past, sometimes we get a little bit off topic, talking about some of the stuff that we find as hobbies or other stuff, or have you tried this, have you done that, And typically when we're working together, we've got a problem that we're trying to solve, so we can't get too far off topic. So it's actually going to be kind of exciting to be able to have a forum where we can actually get into detail and not have a timeline or restriction or having to stay on topic, where we can just explore some of the stuff that we work with, deal with, and that sort of thing. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So
And I think we're being from the engineering side, everything is so perfect. It has to be binary. It has to be dead on, right? And I think that that's one of my personal challenges with doing even the YouTube channel or podcast or whatnot, is that I lack that artistic feel and approach, and everything has to be perfect and everything needs to be dead on. And so just doing this, I think, is also a way to maybe explore myself and try some different things.
yeah.
And get away from just being stuck in the same way that I was before. Maybe this is going to make me push out and try some different things, and maybe get comfortable with the video and get comfortable with hearing my voice and all of that stuff. So
Yeah. And it's a fun project to work on too.
yeah.
Yeah. But I'm looking for the same thing too.
Great.
Yeah. That's the thing with IT is, whether you're designing a solution, maintaining an environment or something like that, it's always perfection. So it's nice to get away from that and be a little creative every once in a while.
Exactly. So this will be our out.
Yeah. So Rob, did you want to start off with a little introduction about yourself, your history, and kind of tell us who you are, how you came to be, and where you are now?
Yeah. So we got my name covered. It's Rob, and I am the director of IT for a company that provides transportation, public transportation, and it's a very fun job. There's something always going on that's completely different. Just like we're talking about, like just a gamut of different technologies that I'm working with. Every day it's something different. I ended up here from pretty much mechanical engineering is where I initially started. So it was a progression, like basically migrating from that mechanical engineering side. It was, going from, so I'm old enough to start when we were drafting on a drafting table, and I really loved it. That did bring some sense of artistic, features to my daily work. But then it went to computer aided drafting, right? And so a lot of people, it's funny how it's interesting how people and technologies change like that, right? So like at that time when I was coming in, when CAD was coming on, the old timers didn't want anything to do with it. And so they didn't transfer over, they didn't migrate over, right? So they really struggle with that computer and going from a pencil on a desk as a drafting table to go to that computer. So we did that, and fortunately that intrigued me, right? So I remember it was a 286, I think, and we were like, what would you ever need a meg for the video card? I mean, this video card was the bomb at the time, but it had a meg, dude, a meg of memory on it. It was like amazing,
Probably pretty expensive too.
Yeah, it was. And at that time I was working for the government, so their pockets are deep.
Yeah.
But we needed a meg video card in our systems. So I followed that mechanical engineering side into another company, a large company, and was getting into modeling, solid modeling and stuff like that. We were doing at that time it was for combustion turbines for power production. So that was fun. That was really ultimately my dream job. But at that time, I was sitting at a Unix box, Silicon Graphics type Spark stations, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So that was fun as an operation, but I didn't get the opportunity to break into the hardware side of it. So I missed that where I was doing that before. So maybe we'll touch on some of these topics in the future, just as memories or discussions or ideas or things that we had in the past, But um, so I was not really able to, because of the policies in the company, right? You can't pull the cover off of a $60,000
Yeah.
machine. Um, so that's for someone else to take care of. So I had that desire filled with doing my own gig with PCs, and so doing that on the side, just maintenance, repairs, selling, building, whatever, and working on a Unix box at work. That is about the time that I was exposed to Linux,
Hmm.
and then it was a boom. I mean, I'm probably talking PC boom, like 96, 97 sort of thing.
Hmm.
And
If you don't mind me asking and interrupting, what flavors of Linux were you using back when you first jumped into it, or do you remember?
so it was Red Hat.
Yeah.
Red Hat. And that was like the only real, hopefully someone's going to correct me here on this video, right? In any comments, that would be great. But Red Hat was really the predominant type flavor. That was a dominant flavor.
Well, I remember they had a big push with marketing and advertising where, if you went into most bookstores that had books with going into Linux, what is Linux, how does it work? I remember like almost every book had that plastic sleeve in it with a Red Hat Linux CD.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Fedora. I think Fedora was around, right? Um, so, I kind of I had an opportunity and I jumped into the Microsoft side, more corporate. And basically that Linux piece, that was a hobby. And now look at it, it's not a hobby anymore. Now it's like what the internet is running on.
Yeah.
So I've only dabbled with it since, from the Unix Linux days. Whenever I bump into it, I take care of business to get back into work, but I don't really have the opportunity to really dive into it and really sink into the Linux side. So, but I have been in the last couple of years, and it really takes me back to, late '90s, and I mean, even it has changed so much, right? Even Linux has changed so much. So that's kind of where we are today. I just got it stuck and focused on the Microsoft side, I guess, for the operating system, but all the hardware and the virtualization and the storage, and that's all just bonus,
Hmm.
on top of it. So, but that's I bring the operating system in because that's kind of the progression. I mean, we were building servers and stuff like that with, the RAID controllers and stuff. But it was really when I look back, it was kind of an operating system jump.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where we are today. How about you?
Oh, I've got somewhat of a similar story with different details. I started off super young, right? Like I was pretty lucky and fortunate that growing up, my dad owned a number of IT companies, companies that specialize in point of sale software. So growing up, I always had access to all the hardware, the software, the fancy stuff. I remember at the age of like 8 or 9 years old, I was helping them do point of sale package installs on.
Wow.
Yeah, on old, like Windows 3.11, and they had the Unix backend server that had,
Windows for work groups.
yeah, the good old days, playing around with BASIC and doing all that kind of stuff. So it actually got to the point where he would send me out and bill customers for me to go in, right? They would need
Really?
yeah, yeah. And I remember, setting up those BNC cables and doing all the networking and stuff, and IPX, SPX, and all that kind of fun stuff. And it kind of got to the point where that's when I fell in love with the technology, right? And it just kind of progressed to where I wanted to know more. And playing around with NT 35351, setting up domains, doing all that kind of stuff. I remember when they came out with the add-on for TCP/IP,
Yeah,
playing with
yeah.
that, and then the NT4 beta, that was a big one
Right.
because
That's yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong. NT4 eventually turned into Server 2000, right?
Yeah. So right. So it's for uh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, what was yeah, okay. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but
no.
I was gonna ask you a question to really throw us off. But um yeah, it was four and then geez, now I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, it was 4 and then Windows 2000. I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
That's what I want to say too.
yeah. But
Because
those were the
four was like 96, 96 or so.
yeah.
That would be about right.
Yeah, and at the same time around then too, that's when I started jumping into Linux. And just like you, it was with Red Hat Linux. It was one of those books that came with the CD,
Hmm.
and I was pretty disappointed.
AC.
I was pretty disappointed when I found that it was an old version, and that's when I first started doing Red Hat TF or FTP installations over a dial-up modem, and those were fun. I was about 12 years old, and you'd start to kick
Wow.
off the install at 10 o'clock at nighttime. You'd be sitting there thinking that it's going to finally complete at about 2:30 in the morning, and then something would happen to the phone line, the connection would get dropped, and you have to start it again. Some installs would take
Right.
three days,
Yeah.
and with the learning curve too, you end up damaging something in the operating system, and then you got to start from scratch. So I probably
So
wasted
you
six
know,
years.
like you're talking about the modems.
Yeah,
You know, it was like you were either a US robotics guy or you're a Zoom guy.
hmm
You remember that?
vaguely. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
With those two modems, it's like talking about dropping the calls. Ah,
Yeah, but that was fun because like I was playing around with Unixware as a kid too, with some of the stuff my dad was working on. So it was always interesting, like learning about the differences between Unix, Linux, and just do they say POSIX or did they say POSIX? POSIX
ooh,
based
I don't
operating
know.
systems.
Yeah,
So
I hadn't even thought about that.
yeah, so that was kind of fun. But jumping back to the NT Windows 2000, it was kind of cool because that was like a big jump as far as technology wise for me because that's when I
Hmm.
started playing with Windows Server clustering and just got into the technology, building networks, getting into enterprise-based IT for fun. 13, 14, 15 years old. Never thought I would do this for work. It was just for fun.
Right, right.
Yeah, and
Well, that's because you have the love for it.
yeah, well, it was
You know,
cool.
it wasn't a job.
Yeah,
It was the love for it.
yeah. Well, it was building systems, networking, connecting them, having
Yeah.
them rely on each other, and whether it's a domain with the back in the day when you had the primary domain controllers, backup domain controllers, and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. So
Hmm.
it was fun stuff, and I just kind of played with it. So 50% of my time was with Linux-based stuff. I got into some wireless hacking with that. Started doing stuff with those wireless radios that you could put in promiscuous mode, where they would just capture all the packets and doing that kind of stuff. I had some big, ginormous antennas that I bought when I was 16 years old, just trying to sniff packets to see if I could decrypt
Oh,
web
that's
keys. Yeah, got into single board computers for a while. That was fun, learning how to do PXE, Pixie remote boots and doing
big news. Yeah.
yeah, and doing installs of Red Hat over a serial null modem.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
So that was fun, and yeah, it was kind of interesting because out of high school, I actually did not even think about getting into IT. It was just supposed to be direct into computer engineering or electrical engineering or something. And I actually didn't want my parents to pay for it, so I decided to hold off, even though I got pre-acceptance into the engineering program. Um, and I ended up getting a job at a local home builder, and got on their IT team. Got promoted a few times in a period of 2 years, IT manager. That was fun because that was actual
Okay.
real world. So
Okay.
you had users to support.
Right.
You had to get into best practices. That's when I learned that there's no such like you can't do hack jobs in a corporate enterprise environment. And at the same time too, it was good for me too because that's when I fell in love with business, and that was a big thing for me. And so with this one company, I got jumped in there, learned Citrix Metaframe, deployed like a 100-user Metaframe environment, redid their backup and disaster recovery, implemented Microsoft Exchange and all that kind of stuff. And eventually it got to the point where after I cleaned up the mess, things got boring.
There's always a mess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it just got to the point where, with my love of business, and with that, I just decided to resign and start my own business. And so did that when I was about 19 years old.
Hmm.
And the business thing is a story in itself, but just the quick version is got feet wet providing IT services for businesses. Did it hourly for about 4 years. Decided to focus on managed services after that.
Okay.
Again, I'll get into detail in another episode or something like that, because that is a really, really long conversation. The argument
Okay.
versus
Great.
hourly and managed,
Cool. Yeah.
and just
You've got that. Bring that. Yeah.
yeah, and just got into solution design, and that's how we ended up where we are now. Is
Yeah.
develop expertise with companies like HPE and all that stuff. And I've got that blog that you found me on, which
Yeah.
is which I
Yeah.
do for in my for fun. That never was supposed to turn into anything. That was just kind of me documenting my own findings so that I could use them later on. But that's turned into quite a big thing now. About 150,000 unique visitors a month. So
Yeah. I don't know if you know, but like your inspiration of that blog inspired me to create my own blog. I think I have 3 posts, so I'm a graduate now. So I got three posts coming on. So
yeah.
but I mean, your blog is amazing. That it's just so resourceful. It's fantastic. Yeah. And that's how as you mentioned, that's how we connected.
Yeah.
I was looking for something, and you offered the resource
Yeah.
on the blog. So it's perfect.
Yeah, that's the big thing. You just gotta create things that have value and just put it out there. Which is, I guess, what we're trying to do with this video podcast as well, too. So
yeah, very much so. Yeah. So I see, looking back at like your history, you with your doing it with the point of sales, right? Stuff, and then you went in. You can see where you brought in that hands-on side, that you were hands-on. You were doing your NT stuff, I would imagine, at night, right?
Yeah.
And then where you brought your enterprise with the construction company into where you're at. You could see where it could come in and mold in, come in together.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that's why you got into it too, is just because as far as technology goes, it's fun and it's endless, and you just keep on learning and learning, consuming, and like, I don't know about you, but I had tons of all-nighters nonstop for weeks at a time learning this stuff. But it was fun because once you wrap up with something, there's always a new challenge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like you get into something, get into a groove, and I've got some projects now. It's like I don't want to put them down. I have to go sleep, but I don't want to put them down. Yeah. I used to work with a guy that he was a Linux guy as well, and we were both hitting that Red Hat stuff. And man, his wife would tell me a couple of weeks later, like, confess that he had she found him all laid down by the desk, just sprawled at like 4 o'clock in the morning. He just passed out. Couldn't let it go. No. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have memories of that, especially when you get worked up on a problem and you're just trying to figure it out. You stay awake for 2 days just trying to figure out why something's happening. You learn it, and just
exactly,
it's fun.
Yeah.
So I guess next we should talk about where we want to go with the show.
Well, that's kind of for me, that's kind of a bit of an unknown. I just want to have a great time having a conversation with you and any other hosts that we have, co-hosts, right, or guests that we have on the show, and that's really what I'm looking to get out of it for me personally. Yeah. But maybe we do have some content that some others could appreciate and learn from as well. So if we can contribute, and then you've made mention about your blog, like some of the real great return on the investment is feedbacks and things like that, or comments that people make.
Yep.
So that's really my primary reason for me personally. Yeah. How about you?
It'll be pretty cool if we get some watchers interacting, giving us feedback on what they want to see. It's nice to have the discussion, and we touched on this at the very beginning of the video, but it's good to talk about the technologies we're working on. as far as future episodes go, like we've done a lot of work with VDI. We've also done a lot of work with storage solutions, whether they're HPE or other vendor storage solutions, connectivity options. And,
Yeah.
there's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other people that are either using the same technologies that we are, or looking to implement them, or just trying to learn about them so that they can become experts themselves. And so I guess, just trying to help people stay relevant. And at the same time, too, we're doing the same thing. So by having these conversations, I use different products than you. You use different products than me. And I'm sure that if we actually do develop a following or a viewer base, we're going to have people chiming in into comments as well with some of their products. So I guess just trying to become informed.
Yeah.
Tech,
Yeah, there you go.
which kind of jumps back to the name of the show, the Tech Informative. So
Exactly.
I guess just trying to stay informed and to kind of dive into tech and what's available. And like I'm pretty excited to talk about like a few things. Like we talking about some of the teasers for potential future episodes. One of the biggest things that have affected IT in the last year is COVID-19.
Right.
There's been a major shift in corporate spending, corporate IT policies. Everyone's doing the whole BYOD, bring your own device now. The implications are huge with security. It's just a major, major shift. There's companies that have never done any type of remote access for their employees. Just a show on COVID-19, how it changed company spending, trust levels, that kind of thing. I'm really looking forward to getting into that. And same thing with VDI. We've worked on it lots, with the products that we've used. You and I both might be a little bit more aligned towards VMware than Microsoft. I haven't played with Microsoft's VDI offering too much, but hey, that might be the perfect time to get a guest involved.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Because it is popular. People do use it.
Yeah.
And we've got the cloud, right? We've got all the different cloud solutions as well. We've got AWS and Azure. And so been working with some of that stuff. So that's offers a lot of great information.
Yeah. Because I think you and I both have some clouds. I got some resources loaded into the cloud. Like I've got some stuff that I use for proof of concepts, and I've helped some customers deploy solutions. I've actually done some solution architect work to actually help deploy and come up with a design for some very large environments. Some of it's under NDA, so I can't get into too much of it, but it's fun stuff to talk about. And I'm also curious to hear, like, you didn't mention this in the introduction, but you're diving into security now.
Yeah. Well, I just destroyed my introduction, but yeah, no,
It's
security.
First time video.
Yeah, security is it really it brings back the roots of the Linux side, right? So much of it is you're working from. It's common to work from the Kali Linux platform, so that is not work to me. That is. I'm swimming in the enjoyment of that operating system. So that's where it's fun. And, like to kind of jump back on a comment or a topic that you just made, and that was about the hardware and stuff like that and cloud. So, go back to that drafting example that I had where, the old timers didn't want to jump to the computer. They wanted to hang on to their pencils and erasers. And we can't do that. Right? You and I can't do that. We can't hang on to only on-prem hardware. And so we have to at least acknowledge what other solutions are out there and jump with them, right? Maybe not. I'm not at a place where I feel like that's where I want to be entirely, but there are resources there that we could reference and build off of the on-prem. So I kind of look at the cloud infrastructure in that way personally.
Yeah.
Is that it's just another tool, and I have to make sure that I've got the tool. Yeah.
Well, that's the big battle, is always staying up to date with all this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I was a little bit slow to jump on the cloud bandwagon. I'm still hesitant with some workloads. Like I know there's a purpose and a place, and I'm not going to get into that too much because like I'll save that for the episode. We don't want to get too much into it, but no, I'm excited to talk about that, and I'm excited to drill into your head about the security stuff too, because that'd
be fun.
Yeah, I'm always curious to hear what you.
Yeah, I find that it's really easy to get tunnel vision. Like I look back, I remember. Well, okay, so bringing Linux, that was a big deal with Linux and PCs and stuff like. I'm not going to touch, and hopefully we do have at least one viewer that can throw in some comment to be like, I don't remember the platform. I want to say Amiga, maybe not, but Mac. I was a big anti-Apple Mac. You know, that I was a PC. I wanted to swap boards out. I didn't want to like go at that time. You had to go buy, an Apple mouse or an Apple memory or Apple hard drive. You know, but I was closed-minded to that. Like I was so against it.
Yeah.
And now it's, almost my preferred, with iPhone integration and stuff like that, because it just works.
Yeah.
And for a lot of stuff, it just works.
And I'm not trying to jump in or anything, but I was the same way.
Please.
And like for me, I wouldn't touch it. It was interesting that they had them at school, but the big jump for me was when they jumped to OS X. And what was the company that they purchased? Was it Next?
Oh, Next. Yeah. Next was another, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I thought that Next was the operating system that Jobs started to, he built once he was booted from Apple. I thought it was Next.
Yeah. And that was based off of BSD, and that's kind of what gave them the ground print, or the initial footsteps. But for me, that was the big jump, is when they started basing that off of Unix. I was thinking, hell, like, let's buy one of these Macs, get an X server set up, and see if we can run some Unix applications on my Linux box, or see if I can run some of the, and vice versa. So that was kind of fun for me. And at the same time, too, with them going towards... and just to backtrack a little bit too, like I was curious about the PowerPC architecture too. Like let's, with me doing all this stuff with Linux, it's like let's get Linux for PPC loaded up on a Mac, a MacBook or a Mac Mini, and so that was kind of fun to play with, because I was in a little bit of a hurry to get them before they transitioned over to Intel, and now here we are, how many years later, and they're ARM. Yeah,
so, from RISC to Intel to ARM.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting and more stuff to play with. So, but Windows is doing the same thing too, as far as starting to develop some ARM offerings, especially with mobile devices and 5G.
Well, look at what Microsoft is doing with Windows with Linux.
Yeah,
and how they're incorporating it.
Yeah. I didn't want to interrupt you earlier, but when we were talking about Linux in the workplace, I could be wrong, but SAP, a lot of for their best practice is to have a lot of the server services on Linux. Now it's people were saying it was never going to catch on. There was no place for it in the workplace, and or now what your comment about Microsoft, more and more companies are starting to implement Microsoft SQL Server on Linux. Who would have ever have thought that you could install Microsoft SQL on Linux?
Exactly. And I think a lot of that is being driven from Azure, right? Because so much of it is, they're just deploying. You can deploy a Linux box, no problem. You don't have to have full outright Windows box to do something. Yeah, serve a function.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see how all this evolves.
And
I'm sure.
I look forward to exploring some of that stuff and gathering some of that information together. It'd be fun.
Yeah. The potential episodes are endless.
It is. It's an endless topic.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I guess so. We covered a couple that the viewers can expect to see in the next little while here. So just a reminder to the viewers, if you want, leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this. And let us know what you thought of our first episode. I don't know if there's anything else you want to...
I'm looking forward to the comments to grow and maybe just our discussion that, of these different historical times, and people say, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, no kidding. Remember with the RISC or the what was the other? Someone will throw in some of the other Linux versions, so
yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And it's going to be fun too once we get comfortable enough to actually start getting some visitors. You know,
Right. Right.
that what we were mentioning earlier about that Microsoft VDI versus VMware VDI. I think that'll be a good episode too. So
That would be fun.
yeah.
We have someone that's really good on the Microsoft side.
Yeah. So if any of the viewers watch this and think that they could fill that role, leave a comment too. Let us know.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Fantastic. It'd be fun.
Well, so Rob, I think that's is that a wrap?
That's it, Stephen.
Well, thanks for your time today. I think
Yeah, it's fun.
this is a good start.
All right, let's get it done.
All right. We hope everyone enjoyed the show. Cheers.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.